Good morning, everybody. We're here for the February meeting of the board, and we have a number of people here. It's wonderful. We're going to have some interesting people to talk about and what they've done, and I think that's going to be terrific for everybody. We've checked that we have a quorum, Madam Pam?
Yes, we do.
We do. Okay, so we'll proceed, and we'll start with the Inspire Awards. Do you want to say a little something about them?
Yes, so we have Inspire Awards from every one of our operating groups today, and we will start with Ms. Slatnick, each managing director will describe the award winners, and we will have them up. They've already received direct deposits to their accounts for the awards, and but we'll hear what their great success, and they're just shining examples of all the great work that we do at MES and what all these folks do for our services for our clients. So, Ms. Slatnick. I would like the managing directors to come up, and not to say you're standing at a lectern, but come up, and then we'll take pictures with team members and Judge Malkin and myself.
Sounds good, thank you. Hi, good morning.
I'm
Melissa Slatnick. I am the managing director of
time out. So this is in my report, but I'd like to just interject if you guys will allow me. Last October, I introduced you to Ms. Slatnick. I'm proud to announce that her acting status has been removed, and she is now the managing director of Technical Environmental Services. Say more later.
But the reason I'm here right now is I'm proud to introduce Zach Lyon, Robert Deshawn, Jason Durr from the BWI maintenance team, as well as Ben Carr from our survey team, who are receiving an Extraordinary Service Inspire Award today. The Maryland Aviation Administration reached out to request help after receiving complaints about a section of the BWI bike trail, that's the trail that goes around the airport. A 7,500 square foot section of the trail had two failing stormwater channels impacted with sediment, debris, overgrown vegetation, and large roots, which were restricting the proper flow of stormwater. The MES team was tasked to make the structural repairs and improve the landscape aesthetic. The team worked to remove the sediment, modify the design, remediate the situation on schedule despite setbacks from weather and high pedestrian traffic. One of the concerns that MEA had was that the pedestrian traffic not stopped, so that was very important to them, and our team was able to handle it so that there was no impact to the people using the trail. Also, the client was very happy that the project came in on schedule and under budget because of our in-house resources. So thank you very much for a good job.
All right, this is where I really get to know the name and face. Zachary. Come on, sit here. Robert. Jason. Thank you. Oh, you guys related?
You got everybody in, or?
And there's a camera. Yes, of course. Yes. You should be in the middle.
Can you get them all in there? Oh, yeah. I got a wide lens. I'm going to take two. Okay.
Thank you. Doliner.
I'm happy to announce that MES is awarding MES is awarding an Inspire Award to the EDR team seated here, Mata Bonarampe, Odessa, Steve Mastro, James Buckingham, Alfonso Russell, Justin Risette, and Tyler Williams for their efforts to develop an alternative discharge system at the DMCF predominantly Masonville and Cox Creek. Prompted by the current fixed spillway systems at Masonville, which would be obsolete during the next phase of dike raising to plus 30 feet if they weren't modified or replaced at a huge cost, MAPA took the initial lead researching and designing a floating weir system. a system that was significantly less expensive than replacing or modifying the two fixed spillway structures. The Masonville engineering team coordinated the preliminary design from MPA Harbor Development Team and the MES Operations and Environmental Teams to finalize a design for a weir for fabrication. This is then tested and retrofitted to a usable system at the Cox Creek facility by this design team here. The team also developed improvements for future floating weir systems. Timing is perfect. This prototype will be put into operation this spring with the spillway going offline at Cox Creek due to the dike raising to plus 60 feet. This alternative floating weir structure system allows MES to provide our client with a significant cost savings with a flexible and expensive removal discharge system at Cox Creek and Masonville and potentially other sites in the future. And I just want to thank you for all your efforts that have been just.
And I'd like to add too, I mean, when she says significant cost savings, a new spillway would have cost over $1 million, and it was what, 20? You guys spent about 20,000 on this floating weir system, so it was pretty awesome.
Come on, guys. Name my buddy, you should be a brother. Thank you. I'm gonna do handshakes along the way. All right, we're down to the bacon. This is light. All right, let me just go with Joe.
I'm all the way back here. Let me get over here.
Yeah.
Quick exit.
Steven.
Sorry, here we go.
There you go.
Thank you.
Nice. James.
That's me.
Hey. All right, let's see if this will start working. Alfonso.
Oh, got it.
You only get one.
Are you related? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Sister-in-law.
Oh, okay.
Kylie?
They don't.
Now we can't, yeah. Figure it out. You got a really wide lens?
Honestly, I
There you go.
Excellent.
Great work. Nice meeting.
You can give you the whole 980,000 in savings.
I'm assuming this can be done elsewhere.
Thanks, great.
I mean, it's proven.
Yeah.
I mean,
I got to go out and see it in action. It's great.
Dr. Glass, this is Marion. If I can ask a quick question on the design of the weir, is this something that should be protected with a patent of any kind? I don't know how unique the design is.
Well, I'll ask the engineer of record.
We have looked into the possibility. We can discuss further.
He said they looked into the possibility and it's in discussion.
Oh, good. Okay. Thank you.
Right, and you're welcome. Now we have Mr. Barr.
Thank you very much. I'm Tim Barr. I'm the Managing Director for Water and Wastewater. And one thing I've learned from being in the water industry is that everybody expects to have water all the time, like electricity. I think we can all agree on that. And when the San Mar Children's Home had to rehab their water tank, 21 years old, it's 21-year-old water tank, they called in the MES to coordinate the operations. The team was Bob Barnhart, Tim Strite, and Chase Clark. Everything was going well until they got a quote from the contractor. The contractor said, you're chuckling, right? Feel like, you got a quote from a contractor. And just like you, the price was much more than they wanted to pay. It was $13,000, right? And this is a children, they're trying to support kids and that kind of thing. So Team MES went to work. And Bob, Tim, and Chase came up with a solution. They used plumbing supplies, fire hose, and 2 pressure tanks that were temporarily stored at another facility. Now, I'm afraid to ask them what those tanks are really going to be used for, but they got access to them, and they were able to put together a solution for $246. So between Home Depot and these tanks we had in storage, they were saving the children's home over $12,000, and I know those $12,000 went towards something very, very beneficial for the home, and we thank you for your ingenuity, your creativity, and we thank you for inspiring us.
I figured that would happen.
Already got their money, nothing else good can
So much good work.
Thank you.
He doesn't have to.
No, they're not here. Good morning. Good morning. I'm Tim Ford. I'm the Managing Director for the Environmental Operations Group. My two employees, Lenny and Jack Higgins, Lenny Hadley and Jack Higgins, would be here, but they are licensed stationary engineers, and they are on shift at the facility, and so they're watching though. Jack. But they're listening in as well. So, we all know COVID hit the state pretty hard, and more so with the Omicron variant of this last winter. And nowhere was it even more evident than in our state prisons. We operate, and you'll hear a presentation later on our operations, but we operate the steam plant for the Hagerstown Correctional Institution. And it delivers steam for cooking and heating and laundry there. It's an essential service. It goes on 24/7, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. So, and it requires a specific and highly skilled employee, these stationary engineers. It takes 10 years to get the license, and there aren't a whole lot of those folks out there. So at the height of the surge on January 17th to 23rd, all but two of our operators at Hagerstown were out either with COVID or in quarantine. That left the remaining shifts to be covered by Mr. Hadley and Mr. Higgins. They worked a full week's worth of 12-hour shifts apiece. It was grueling, hard work, and they rose to the occasion in meeting the obligations that we have to the prisons, DPSCS, and to the folks that they serve in those prisons. So my hat's off to both of those gentlemen. In particular, Lenny, there was a ice storm in the middle of this week, and Lenny, rather than go home and risk not being able to get back in the morning, stayed overnight in a cot and manned the facility for the full 24 hours. So hats off to these guys. I'm sorry they weren't able to be here today, but they were watching. So again, hi guys. Well, I think that is just a terrific idea to do this, and thank you all so much for coming here. Secretary of Public Safety know about this.
I'll make sure he does.
I think Secretary Green,
Is this
I think
or the-
Secretary Green would be appropriate as well.
We'll make it so.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, folks, next is the,
Okay, thank you.
next is the minutes of the meeting of January 27th of 2022. It has been given to all of the members of the board. And are there any exceptions or mistakes or anything that has been found? Any time to look at it, that's fine.
I make a motion to approve.
All right. Actually, I think technically we don't need to do that anymore, do we? Because of the Robert's rules, so say it's nice. That's good.
It's nice.
So, if that's nice, it's fine. Okay.
These are nice minutes, Ken. They look really good, too.
Robert's rules really slip falling down on the job. I mean, these are our corporate records, and I just think that, you know, Robert's rules notwithstanding, the board ought to take judicial notice of them, and,
Well, that's just fine. Let's go back and do it.
Okay, so they're nice.
All in favor of saying they're nice?
I don't get it.
We could go back to the, quill pen and do that one.
Yeah, I don't understand.
All right. Well, does anybody find anything wrong with it at all? No. Okay. I think we can proceed. Thank you. And next we have Mr. Glass, our Executive Director, right here.
Be nice
He
to.
will be talking to you.
Thank you, Judge.
He does need to have a,
Thank you, Judge Smolkin. Next slide. So during the period of this expense report, Deputy Director Feketich and I had no expenses. This is largely due to the state of emergency that was by the time we got back from the holiday break, the Christmas break, we shut down partially. So, and I did have a trip to look at technology in Ohio. It wasn't a glory trip or anything, but that was canceled, and we canceled all site visits, as you'll see in my visits, but now the state of emergency has been lifted, and we are scheduling events as we speak. I won't ask her to stand up again, but I wasn't done. Next slide. The next slide doesn't probably have anything on it related to this. But again, congratulations to Ms. Slatnick. Ms. Slatnick has over 24 years of experience here at MES. She was a blessing out of EDR, and which left Ms. Dolliner in a lurch, and Ms. Dolliner has been doing a lot of responsibilities since her departure, but it's a team effort and everyone supports each other. She's already led a reorganization of the Technical Environmental Services Group, and the challenge, as you saw at the last board meeting, of a lengthy internal audit that requires a response, and she's been leading that charge. We are stronger with her in this role, and I am honored to work with her. So please, one more time, I'd like to thank her. Now to the bad news, legislative session. No, it's a joke.
Not nice.
Yesterday, we completed our budget hearings. We have had no problems with our operational budget. However, we do face a challenge with $6 million to continue work on the Conowingo Dam sediment and innovative reuse project. That funding has been deleted by the analyst, and we are providing more information to both the analyst and to a delegate and a senator that are concerned. We'll continue to try to provide any advice and information that we can, and that's the only risk we face at this point in time with the budget session. Other than that, the DLS and the analysts that we work with are excellent and have given us great support over the years, and we're just going to try to work as we can through the issue and hope that the funding is not stricken. So other than that, there are a lot of bills that have do not have a direct impact on MES. However, that would change some parts of our operations. I will have Mr. Tosi do a presentation at the next board meeting, as will be at the end of March, to really address any of those bills that are either well on their way to being passed and will still have to face the governor's pen, but those that might have a larger impact on MES. But there's nothing that's so critical at this point.
Could we go back to Conowingo for just a second?
Of course, sir, yes.
Is this a staff recommendation, a DLS staff recommendation?
Yes.
I believe?
For what we know, yes.
Yeah, okay. And it may be that this might have been one of the governor's priorities, so it might be an attention-getting thing. So maybe later on in the session it can be worked out. But, okay.
We did get a lot of support from MDE. During their testimony, they also said that they disagreed with the recommendation.
I'm almost sure that's probably 98% of it is something that the governor really wanted to happen. So we'll see what happens later on in the session. Sometimes they'll restore the cut and put restrictive language on it or something, but it'd be interesting to see if this cut stands. Thanks.
Next slide. There's a lot of movement. I did have the first sub-cabinet meeting for the infrastructure bill, Maryland's response to the infrastructure bill. It is an incredibly exciting time. I worked on background check research, separate issue, and I wanted to focus on that as the principal counsel had interest in it, and I wanted to get it moving from where it was. So I originally asked Deputy Ferketic politely to take the lead on support for the infrastructure bill, but that's off my plate. I'm diving back into it with Deputy Ferketic. We both recognize that for the next 4.5 federal fiscal years, there's $1.2 trillion in both the Maryland apportionment and then 380 grants programs they all have $1 billion in them at least each. So there's just an incredible opportunity to support our state, county, and municipal governments with access to those in our environmental mission. And because so much is directed towards transportation and directly directed towards the environment and climate change and resilience, it's just an awe-inspiring opportunity for the next 5 years. So I will keep you aware of it. Right now, I also last month attended a US EPA ASCE virtual presentation on everything it's doing to both of the state revolving fund programs in water and wastewater treatment. So Secretary Grumbles stated again yesterday, the state will receive an extra $154 million per year to those two programs for the next 5 federal fiscal years. There's also a direct appropriation for lead pipe replacement, and he mentioned at one point that how to spend the money in that lead replacement placement in time. So a lot of work for contractors, a lot of work for consultants, and a lot of work for MES to help with. So mainly last month was a lot of interaction between state agencies, and then some of the usual suspects with the Southwest Airlines effort and Bioenergy DevCo. Next slide.
Can we talk about lead pipes for a second? Do we know the nature and extent of the problem here in Maryland? I mean, in the Rust Belt,
it's different.
It's big, but I'm just wondering, I don't think it's quite as big here as it is in Ohio or Michigan or one of the Rust Belts.
It is not. So that apportionment, he doesn't even.
I'm sure we're just not going to get an equal piece of the pie. It's all going to be based upon.
Yeah.
I think DC is doing a lot of work in that area, but I don't think there's.
Baltimore City has an aging infrastructure, but I'm not so sure it's a lead pipe issue. Okay.
Next slide, or do I? Yes. So along with our vacancy rate, which you'll hear about in the HR report, one simple activity has been that I've added that's not on this slide is that it has increased. I believe it's an increase every Wednesday we onboard. And so every Wednesday, myself or Deputy Ferketic will welcome the new hires and thank them for joining, express the three pillars, safety, training and education, and then level of service, and just welcome to the team. And it's been a pleasure the last 3 weeks that I've done it. I feel like people are shocked that the executive director is doing it, but it's a happy time, and it's the happiest day of employment, some may say, right? So that retirement might be good. So along with that, MES recruitment has stepped up. We are being intentional about lowering the vacancy rate. The executive office is leading the organization of enhanced recruitment, supported by all of the operating groups and HR and IT. And I have some space left for IT real data metrics that you'll see later. But social media, LinkedIn and Facebook are being tracked and monitored. Partnerships with the Maryland Department of Labor, Baltimore City's Mayor's Office, county workforce development agencies, have a list of them, vocational tech high schools, as I mentioned before, the Maryland Workforce Exchange. We've attended 5 recruitment events in February alone, including the 2022 Career Transition Workshop of the Society of American Military Engineers on 2/22/22. We plan to continue this outreach. There's a general dip that you'll see in the HR report. We can't credit one data point, does not a trend make, but we're hopeful that this activity will help. There was an event in Prince George's County that I received a report on yesterday where there were 150 contacts made during that event. So we're hopeful that our trickle of 2 to 5 new hires every Wednesday turns into a flood until we fill all of our vacancies and get below our 5% threshold vacancy rate. Next slide. So the strategic plan effort continues to move along. We have completed both a client survey and a survey of our teammates. We had to send the client survey out twice, but I heard we had a greater response. We had 187 responses out of 720 or so employees in that 2-week period, and we're still culling through that data, but it is great. We expressed how anonymous that would be. We're obviously willing to share with the board all of the results, but we also are trying to decide how we could make them public, at least on our intranet, so that everyone knows, making sure that there's no identifying information in people's answers, that we are open and transparent with all of support and criticism found in our survey. And we will be putting that together. We have 44 KPIs we are culling through right now. My thoughts are to have 1 MES KPIs, key performance indicators, and then each group that they've identified that are specific to the operating groups, and finance and administration, so that we have that baseline of performance measures we use for the next 5 years that are also connected to BEST. So we have one shop, we have one data source, one data landing spot that informs everything that we do and supports the entire strategic plan. And the draft has been started, but is not at a point where we would say it's done. But March, we're going to get those last 2 bullets from January and February done, and in March we'll hopefully we'll be wrapping up the draft. So that's that. And then next slide, and we'll be ready for. Oh, sorry.
Strategic plan. I was doing some work on it the other night, and if we're sitting here 2 years from now, our workforce could easily be 2 or 3 times the size it is now. I commend you for trying to fill the vacancies and everything, but this is going to be a boom time. And in addition to moving the company forward on a static basis, we have to consider the real possibility that things are going to be thrown at us left and right, and we're going to have to staff up to that. We could easily have a workforce of 2,000 or 2,500 people, and in the foreseeable future, very quickly. So I don't know how you do it, but we ought to think about how you do it.
Do you think there's some way, just to make a carry on to what you had said, is there some way to perhaps go go to a corporation of some sort and say, you know, we would like to do some of your people, and bring us in for a period of time, year or 2 years or whatever, does that,
without prejudging, I think we're gonna have our core staff is gonna have to grow because they got the superintendent, the work's being done. We'll be able to outsource some of this stuff, but again, we're gonna be ultimately responsible for the content and quality of the work being done. So we can't skimp on that because it's gonna be a lot of money and a lot of different projects, and there are things that, very much need doing, and there'll be a lot of eyeballs on it. So, on how, this money's used. So it's a real opportunity for this company. I think after this company will never be the same because we're gonna be an entirely different size and scope, 5 years from now than we are today. But I do think it's gonna require some planning and thought.
yeah, the only thing I wonder, because I know how much you know about these things, and the question is there anything that you know of in the state whether they are statutory or otherwise, that we can go ahead and do that outsourcing if we need to?
Well, I think we're going to have to look at our statutory foundation to see if we have the authority that we need to do these kinds of things, and regulatory oversight and all that. But I think a lot of it's going to fall to us because the state's going to be receiving this money, and they are going to want to farm it out as quickly as possible. And whether we are overseeing the work for quality control or everything else, or actually being the contractor doing the work, I think we're going to do both. And so we're going to have to be ready. And the other thing is we've got a lot of customers, and we got to keep them happy. So I mean, you got to take care of the people that you're committed to, but then there's this whole bollocks of work that's going to come, and it's going to come very, very quickly. And in the grand scheme of things, 4.5 fiscal years. Just do the math. I mean, every year there's going to be. Now we won't get it all, but I think we're going to, particularly on the environmental end of things, I think we're going to get more than our fair share. So, something to think about.
Next, I just want to, thank you for that. Next, I want to hand it over to an IT professional that, or retires first? Yeah. Oh, for retirement first. All right, sorry, I thought my order, not the order. So, we have two 30-plus year retirements to announce today. Shame on us for not taking our masks off in this picture, but Miss Kathy Waters started at MES as a clerk typist in 1989, promoted less than 2 years later to an office secretary. She accepted a position as a weighmaster and served in that capacity until switching gears in 2001 to become a fiscal and accounts supervisor. She continued to advance through the years, including serving as an accounting assistant and management specialist. In 2018, she was promoted to the position of administrator for environmental dredging and restoration. So for those that do not know, we have group admins for each of the managing directors and operations, and those group admins, you know, they do run a lot of the managing directors. They make things happen. They're the linchpin. They're the fulcrum, whatever description you want. So Ms. Waters was that for EDR, and she's sorely missed. She took advantage of the tuition reimbursement program at MES. She not only earned her bachelor's but also her master's, and she provided exceptional support. And she gave a great exit interview for Ms. Dolliner. So we thank her for all her years of service and wish her well in her new venture. So. Next slide. And Mr. Greg Brown. Mr. Greg Brown served for 37 years, began his career April 10th, 1985. He started as a water plant operator and steadily progressed through the Environmental Systems Operator Series, serving as ESO 1, 2, and 3, and Environmental Systems Supervisor. He currently held the position of Environmental Systems Assistant Regional Supervisor for the Western Region. And I learned that he stuffs animals as a hobby. He's a taxidermist.
That sounds a little better.
But no, that he'll be sorely missed. I unfortunately could not make it to his celebration yesterday, but Deputy Freketek represented us, and he will be sorely missed, and we wish him well in his retirement. So now the last thing on my agenda is to pass this over to Mr. Green, who for the last 6 weeks has helped create an executive dashboard, and that gives us clarity on all of our current positions, our hiring situation, and our vacancies. And this was a part of a process with HR that cleaned up all of the requisitions and now gives us real-time data that you see every month. Mr. Green, let's see if we have no IT issues.
I hope not. I hope not. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Greg. Stop my share, and now you can share your screen.
Hopefully everyone can see this.
Yeah, good.
Okay, so this is Workday, and under the direction of Dr. Glass and Deputy Freketek, we started developing some data points that we want to look at. This is showing these charts and graphs do not include Maryland Clean Energy and Chesapeake Bay Trust. These are real-time data points. This report here shows the current active worker count for MES, and an active worker is someone who is currently working and being paid by the Maryland Environmental Service. As you see, we also have it broken out by groups. For each group, specific count of their current staffing. Next, we have headcount reporting. On the first tab, we can see open requisitions for vacant positions. A requisition is initiated by a manager and receive approvals from management to advertise or hire for a vacant position. This right now is the actual count for open positions we have by group, broken out again by group. On the next screen, we see head count by month. MES workers or employees are employed at a given point in time. This is a snapshot of the given point in time. As you can see, broken up by 2021. Beginning head count for administration and finance was 71. Ending head count at the end of the year was 68, for example, while environmental operations went from 243 to 237. We still see that environmental operations still staffed at about 240 people average. Next tab we have is called turnover. Turnover is the measurement of workers who leave the agency within a specific time period. This is also a snapshot of the time period, and it's showing by each group. You can see here, for example, administration and finance, the opening head counts, total turnover percentage, which they don't have any currently. They retain a lot of employees. But if we go down, we can look at dredging. You can see that 0821, dredging did have a little bit of turnover, 2%. And this goes on for each and every group until you get to the total count for the entire agency. And you can see the turnover percentage here. The chart next to it shows turnover percentage by group, but more of a monthly turnover. For voluntary and involuntary, it's broken down for whatever reason the employee might be separating from the company. And this can be used to define the trend in MES workforce and provide the executive staff with information to come up with mitigating and developing a plan if necessary. Are there any questions on these? Would anyone have anything, any input?
So thank you, Mr. Green. Thank you for all your work on this. So these 3 pages, not only will Deputy Freketek and I use them and weekly monitor, as I do just by going to the onboarding, but also each managing director and each of the managing directors, all 6 of them, will have access to this data for their group and they will be able to monitor. Now, again, that group admin, one of their key roles is to make sure they're in communication with hiring managers on, not like the PIN system in the state. If there's a client and the person is billable, they know whether a position is coming or going. They know when we approve a new position because of a new contract vehicle. So that communication between the managing directors and the group admins and HR and IT for real-time data, for us to always have our finger on the pulse and how we move. And hopefully, as we finish, as we finish our strategic plan and have our key performance indicators, and as this is one of them, along with billability and non-billability, along with our general vacancy rate, gives everyone what we work toward. We all are connected, we all work for our environmental mission, and we have the data to back up where we are and where our improvements are. So with that, I'll end my report, and we can move on, unless there are any questions, any other questions.
Just one question. I worked somewhere where one time we tracked not only how many people were working, but we also tracked what we call lost availability.
Mm.
And sometimes that shows you more than the other direction. So basically, you're tracking the vacancies from the perspective of what is it costing me.
Yeah. I'll look at that up. Right.
So we have some, we usually just look at, well, so-and-so is working availability or billing work is 80%. But really, to include your consideration about additional staff, you may have that person already on board, split up between 4 or 5 people maybe, but the hours are there.
Yeah. Well, we get that from you haven't seen this has names associated, so we're not going to show it here, but our billability, non-billability for every single person in the organization, whether they're front office or back office, we can choose any time for him. Actually, this is how I got to know Mr. Green. He worked on that project first. We can look up every pay period, every quarter, every year, exactly how billable someone has been if they're in an operating group. And that lack of billability is a lack of availability, and there's different terms in business for it. And that is monitored, and actions are taken. And that concludes my report.
All right, thank you, sir. I have one thing I wanted to make clear, and that is that the members of the board have gone to the to the state senate, and I'm sure that Mr. Neal has something to say about it, but I will say that
less said the better.
We can say that the Senate was pleased, I would say, in many ways, and especially the board members, leaving myself out of it. My wife will tell you I should be left out of it, but I think it shows that the people that have been brought into the board are people who are in many, many fields across the board, and technically, in terms of this state, from east to west, or west to east, depending where we are in the middle. And not only that, but what I've seen since we did this in July 1st, everybody came in, and a little bit after, these folks are committed to what they are doing, and I think that is terrific. So thank you very much, folks. Well appreciated. And there's a few out there that I'm seeing, and they are also with us. So thank you very much, and thank you. I want to say thank you to the entire Senate of the state of Maryland. I don't know how to do that. That's why I was.
Well, I'll just say that they were very, very pleased. Indeed. Executive nominations sometimes can be a tinderbox where there's trouble. That's where it first manifests itself. But this board was part of a piece of legislation that was supposed to solve some problems, and suffice it to say, I think my former colleagues were very pleased with the solution, both the personnel that were on the board, staff, and also the content of the work that we did between July and December. So we're off to a good start.
Well, thank you very much, and we appreciate your help as well, because you've been everywhere. So that's
Yeah.
I don't know where else you're going to go, but.
Yeah, that's true, man. Somewhere, but.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sure.
Okay. Next is the Managing Director's agency activity reports. I think we have those for us to look at. Take some time. And we'll see. Take a look at them. And these are potential. So if any one of you sees something that you want to get more explanation about, just say hello. Anyone have any questions or comments with regard to it? All right. So again, it does not require a motion now, but just wanted to show what's coming ahead. Okay. Next item we have is for something that is a little different from what we've done in the past, and that has to do with a non-governmental entity, W.R. Grace and Company, who is a well-known outfit with landfill and solid waste management services. We need to make an approval, if need be, or if we agree, on a contract or contracts with this. Is there anyone who wants to talk about this so that Mr. Ford?
Oh, W.R. Grace has a monofill that disposes of a byproduct from their manufacturer of silicone on Chemical Road. Several years back, they approached me about operating that particularly difficult operation because it's the receiving hours are in a full. We're bringing people in. They had to pay a contractor actually for full-time work there. We're able to use resources and run that a lot cheaper than they were paying in the past. And we continue to provide that service since. With the passage of the Maryland Environmental Service Reform Act, that the opportunities with the private sector to the board and to the Maryland Board of Public Works. So this is the first one that my group was presenting, and it's a great opportunity. The W.R. Grace folks have already approved the extension of the contract on their end. It's simply waiting for the board and the Maryland Board of Public Works to approve.
And because this is the first one, we're actually meeting next Wednesday with the board staff. Yeah, to make sure that, you know, we need to make sure that they understand what we're doing and they can tell us what sort of things they want us to give them when we present these types of contracts.
For W.R. Grace, this is what they'll call a non-revenue producing activity, which means they don't make any money off of it. It's an expense, so any savings is greatly appreciated.
We're not actually taking issue now with regard to it. Are we starting now?
Yes.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure we've got that. So it's because it's the $250,000 range, which this is higher than. So therefore, does any member of the board have a motion with regard to this?
Move approval.
Yeah, okay,
It's nice.
all right. Second. Any questions, any other matter before we take a motion? I'm sorry. All right, all those in favor, please raise your hands, state your name. Aye. All right, therefore it is approved, and we can continue. All right, next thing is, one of my favorite people here, because I always ask him, you can say it yourself.
Yes, sir, we are solvent. So we gave some Inspired Awards for doing good work, and we saw some examples of MES doing good work. Employees work here for more than 30 years, and we all feel good. I feel good. But all that time I'm thinking, are we making money? So I'll present to that, what is the result of all that good work. So labor sales is the main driving factor because that is where we recover our fringe and overhead. Labor sales are lower than the last year, and labor sales, the operating labor is pretty consistent. However, the capital projects, depending on the duration, when they start within the fiscal year, it usually changes from year to year. So at this point, we are 6% less in labor sales than the same time last year. But we had adjusted for the capital project. So what we had budgeted, we are only 3.6% less than what we had budgeted. But from year to year, we are 6% less. And it is less in all the labor groups. However, this is not a major concern because we are under the budget in overhead expenses also. So it will be nice to get that labor dollars more, but it's not going to be a major concern as far as going forward.
That's something you catch up with from January to June? Some of this timing issue? Or?
Yes. We may not catch up all of it, but January was the biggest decline. January last year versus January was 10% less labor. And sometimes, the holidays plays part of it. And it is bad news for the employees of MES, but it's good news for bottom line that between February and May, there are no holidays, so we'll have more billable labor, so it will get better. Okay, next slide, please. The change in net assets. So as of January 31st, in this fiscal year, we have total change in net assets. Positive is $2,197,000. At this time last year was $2,900,000, which was so this year it is $700,000 less. But as I say, it is our projection for the whole fiscal year is $3,290,000, and we will meet that target. And I think. Since we are going into this more billable labor period, it may be even more than that. So the reliable prediction is $3.4 million. Next slide, please. Should be the total net asset component. Yeah. So usually the total net assets, we try to be consistent with it. We don't want to increase our total net assets, not from one fiscal year over the other fiscal year. And we will stay in the range of $32 million, and usually half of it will be invested in capital assets, half of them will be contingency fund and non-restricted assets. We are not planning any capital expenditures this year, but we are in the planning stages. The electric vehicles and the charging stations, the facilities are a big priority in this legislature, and we have started planning on it. So next year we'll probably spend a good amount of money to develop the charging stations. We're gonna purchase electric vehicles, electric trucks. The supplies are not that plentiful, and we had to wait for the state to have a state contract, so we get a better prices. So we may not acquire too many electric vehicles, but we will definitely have infrastructure built in there, about 10 to 12 charging stations at MES facility here. It will be just the infrastructure, not the actual charging stations. We will install them as needed. And since we are all over the Maryland, so we had to figure out, how we're gonna have the electric vehicles at the facilities like Mission and all that, which have large number of employees. So we are in the planning stages. Nothing is gonna be done this fiscal year, but we have started that process, and we will have some capital expenditures in that area next year.
And the planning does include those electric vehicle charging stations being connected to the canopy, correct?
Correct, yes. Yeah, so we're gonna use as much solar power as possible for charging stations, and it is going to be in the one right side of the building there, where there's a canopy, solar canopies there, and that's where we will have it. We'll figure out something about the employees charging their vehicles too, but, of course, I have to see IRS regulations, what is the impact on it. So it's a long process, but I have started. Just want to let you know.
Are we eligible for any of the national money that's going to be extending charging stations all over the place? There's a big dollar amount being set aside to establish charging stations around.
ASTRO and NASCIO have joined forces, and we do get support from MEA for grants, and we work with them regularly, so I hope so.
Yeah, well, there's going to be public money available. I think some of it is for citizens.
Sure.
To do that, but I'm sure there's going to be a public component of this.
We are looking at every grant right now. We already started on it. The federal, the state, the BG, Exelon. We are exploring all grants available. So. Okay, next slide, please. So this is our net budget versus actual. As I mentioned in the previous file, as of actual January, we are there's a positive increase in net assets of $2.1 million. Our budget for the full year is $3.2 million, and we will reach that target. I don't expect any major drop in labor. One of the advantages we have is the actual work, the scope of the work within our customers, clients change, but they are very happy with our work. So if there is any opportunity, we will get that work, and we will catch up with expected labor sales. So as we're gonna right now the budget for the full year is $3.2 million, and very likely we'll reach that or up to $3.4 million. That's the projection there. Next slide, please. And this is what we had planned for fiscal year 22, and labor sales are budgeted for $34,463,000. Will be a little less, but the overhead expenses will be less, and we will have the increase in net assets of $3.2 million. I did talk to Dr. Glass before. We always see there's business research and development, line there, but no amount there. So eventually we'll plan something for it. So. And that concludes my presentation.
All right, well, thank you very much. I've got one question, and that just around the board here. We are in a very difficult situation. Not just in Europe, but here. And at some point, there may be some Army or whatever, people who are reserve officers or reserve people. Do we have something planned for, let's say, their families or something, if they have to go overseas or go into maybe to Fort Hill or wherever, and leave here and have their families? Just have we ever thought about that? I'm just making it, as a former Army officer, are very interested in this, and I think it, you know, obviously there are things about payment and all that stuff when they come back, but if it would just be something, a little something to send to the family to say, you know, we're behind you and we will help as need be. Just an idea.
Do we have any people who are callable?
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
We've had people who have called up because of COVID.
Yeah.
Activated from that.
Yeah. How many do we have roughly who are?
It's just a few of them, like about 3 or 4 we've had called up.
That's about it, yeah. Because they could be reserves or they could be,
National Guard.
just regular guard, yeah. We've got 2 parts in the guard. We've got 4 in reserves, or 4 or 5, I've forgotten how many. So it could be depending on what is going on. So just an idea, just in case it comes up, I think anybody have any discipline? I hope not, but.
MES FRG.
All right. Thank you, very good. All right, next, sorry. Oh, yes.
Audit time.
Sorry, I skipped. Oh, my goodness.
So the audit committee did meet on February 14th. We got to share Valentine's Day with each other. Very special. It was very nice way to spend Valentine's Day.
There was no massacre.
There were 2 major things on the agenda, the first of which is the service center process review, which I believe Dr. Glass is going to give us a few words about why Ms. Condra our internal auditor, was chosen to review the data.
So at the turn of the fiscal year, it was identified that there was a loss. This goes directly to some of this conversation we've had already. If there are folks in operating groups that are in billable positions and they are not billable, but they are still here, then they are on overhead. So that creates a loss. There was an effort 15 years ago to create a service center where instead of billing actuals, labor, fringe, and overhead, there was a surplus put into the billing. Some clients agreed to that rate sheet. That's why it wasn't illegal. However, the excess funds went into a cost center that was affectionately termed service center. However, this created a situation where if people are not billable and that is not monitored effectively and efficiently and all the time, you could overcharge the service center, also creating a loss. So at the fiscal year, it was determined that occurred. I was surprised. I asked the internal auditor to look into this and perform an investigation. I also took management actions to change the leadership in that group. And this audit review was the culmination of that effort. We now have a path forward. The service centers are going away at the fiscal year. There has been a reorganization in tests led by Ms. Slatnick, and we are on the path to recovery from this operational perspective. So, that's the end of it.
There were 11 subject areas or scope areas that were reviewed, and when you look at the results, there were a number of areas that were deemed worthy of more review. There were 7 considered in the top, 3 in the high, and 1 in the medium, and that comprises the 11. But there will be, and flip to the next slide, this is the result of it, is that there is an expected completion date by July 1st to put some more oversight and implement these strategies. So that was the first item that we spent quite a bit of time with, and then there was another item, which was the expense reimbursement scrub. So there were 3 findings in this area, and just to be clear, this was a closed session meeting, so some of the data, now that we're in open session, we're not going to discuss exactly which employees, but there were 3 findings, and they have been corrected as well. And you can flip to the next slide. Findings, and we don't anticipate any issues in those areas in the future. Any questions?
My question is, when I go back to Kent County, do I need a visa?
Sorry. No visa.
All right, good. Thank you very much. Anyone else have any questions? All right, thank you. It's hard work, I know, and you all did a great job. Thank you. Next. Now, Ms. White.
I just want to share our very nice human resources. Because our vacancy rate has gone down to 7.95%. And our total employees at the time of this report was 792. If you look at the next chart, it's going in the direction that Dr. Glass wants it to go in, which the whole agency wants it, which is going down. Any questions?
All right, any questions for Ms. White? Hearing none, we'll proceed, and we'll proceed with Ms. Wang, who is our HR person for the board. And Ms. Wang, hello.
Unmute. Unmute yourself.
Still on mute.
Muted here. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Work up here. Hi. One of the mandates of the MES Reform Act requires the board to establish criteria and procedures for evaluating the executive director. These criteria and procedures must be published on MES's website, and the evaluation must occur annually. So to these ends, and with the assistance of Mr. Coleman's office, the HR committee developed 33 draft criteria to evaluate the executive director based on 5 general categories. You received a copy of the draft criteria and procedures in your board packet. They are up here on the screen. But to give you an overview and summary, these criteria, there were 33 draft criteria that were developed, and they were based on 5 general categories. These categories included overall organization performance criteria, of which 8 criteria were developed. These 8 criteria address, among other matters, standards of integrity, management, leadership skills, and judgment. The second category related to community leadership. The criteria under this heading would establish standards for fostering effective communications with MES's constituencies and relationships with organizations or individuals in the field. The third category, listed as administration and human resources, we developed 8 criteria, which among other things address various factors for the effective recruitment and management of MES's human resources. The fourth category rather, was with regard to financial sustainability and mission impact criteria, which among other things addresses the need for cooperative and/or working relationships with the treasurer, deputy treasurer, or others on key budget and management areas, and also addresses or requires the need for the executive director's assistance to the board in developing and implementing a strategic plan and an operating budget. Lastly, there's a category that relates to the board of directors. There are 6 criteria underneath this heading, which include criteria for providing appropriate leadership, support, and communications with the board. The Human Resources Committee met on, I thought we met on February 14th also, but I'm not sure if we met on the same date that the Audit Committee was meeting. But in any event, the HR Committee met last week to discuss and revise the draft criteria which you have before you. And based on the committee's discussions and vote, the HR Committee presents the draft criteria and procedures for evaluating the executive director to the board and recommends that these criteria be considered for adoption by the board. And with that, I'll leave it open for any questions or discussions the board members might have.
Questions, members? No? I think we need a motion on this, do we not?
That's correct, Judge.
We need a motion on this. Anyone wish to make a motion? I'll make it. Any second?
I'll second.
Second. All right. Any questions? Comments? If not, all in favor, please raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Therefore, it is in service. Okay. Thank you very much, as always. Appreciate that. All right, now our Deputy Director.
Do we have
There's
one other item?
Oh,
HR.
I'm sorry.
The OIT.
You're on mute again. There we are.
Sorry. Thank you. The Human Resources Committee also considered the OIT hiring scale, which has been the discussion of past board meetings. And to this end, I did ask Dr. Glass to at least provide an overview with regard to the proposed plan and approach to address some of the OIT hiring and retention issues that are related to salary. Thank you, Dr. Glass.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So I presented this the last few board meetings. We did a comparison evaluation. We formed a committee made up mainly of water, wastewater leadership to go through the entire program. This is also directly connected to the recruitment efforts. There is a history, documented history of losing trained operators to higher paying counties and municipalities, to losing them as soon as they have their licenses, and to having a challenge with, I gave you a number, 200 contacts over a year to attract OITs, where the person had tried through our portals and through, I can't remember the name of the app, but what's our, not Workday, but anyway, they applied. Indeed. Through Indeed, they make the contact, and they talk with our manager that engages day-to-day on this program, and out of 200, we get 14 starting. So we've expanded the recruitment, so if we need to make that 1,000 contacts, hopefully we will get the same ratio, but hopefully we will increase the ratio. There's also a documented graying of water, wastewater operators, as you see Mr. Brown retiring, that may be a larger wave in the coming years. At the same time, no offense intended. At the same time, there are opportunities to provide operation support throughout the state and the region. So with that, we did the evaluation. We have a modest increase for the starting OIT. We documented that OIT 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, becoming an operator, be in a schedule, and we also confirmed that this does not impede the rest of the schedule, so the new operator is not making more than, now this next slide shows, than a senior operator or an environmental system supervisor. We are working on this schedule now too, so separate from that request for you to approve the increase in the OIT program. We did not disband that committee. We still meet weekly, and we're evaluating the entire schedule up to managing director of water and wastewater, really, so that schedule is complete. All of the jobs you see on the lower classification table are a direct line from someone starting as an 18-year-old with a GED or a high school diploma to a regional supervisor for one of our 5 regions in the state, and our highest level before they are here at the building being the division chief. So really the division chief for water wastewater could be on this list. It does not require a college degree, and that is the highest ranking person from this program. So we're working on that schedule. But separate from that, I just wanted to present that this is the culmination of the last few months of work to get to this point where we believe we will be competitive and hopefully retain more of our operators. Thank you, Ms. Wong.
I might add that the Human Resources Committee also met, discussed this, and is recommending to the board the adoption and approval of these salary increases.
Yeah, I want to say that I know a little bit about DC Water. One of the things they were able to do is, it's a large plant that's broken up in a number of different sections. They started paying employees to learn more than one section. So that's going to be hard when you have a circuit rider versus someone who's been at a plant like Blue Plains, in terms of comparing the dollar amount of money that make. So that you may find yourself in a different competition instead of just head-to-head by classification. And hopefully not adjust the price, what we are trying to move to, but it's something that I think we got to keep in the back of our mind. Not that we have to meet DC Water, don't get me wrong, but there may be some balance there if you start finding yourself losing too many people.
Iron said, mentioned that these people get pirated, get their credential. Maybe we ought to take a page out of the military book, have a payment when they get their credential, so it's harder to walk away from. That goes. It's going to cost this company. If you keep losing people, you have to find them and train them and then re-credential them only to lose them again. And there may be a way to do this cleverly so that we're not going to hang on to them all, but I think you could. Because it's no coincidence that as soon as they get their ticket punched, then they become a very attractive candidate to everyone.
Yeah. DC Water has several of our former employees, as is WSSC. I can't just say DC Water, but
So
that's like tuition remission. We've been looking at it.
Anything that you do, but I know that the military, in order to keep people, what they do is when they reach a certain level, they get a payment, which helps them re-enlist. So
helps them have enough money for their spouses and kids.
Everything. Just live on. It just works. It works, but the timing is important.
Indeed. Good idea. All right. I think we need a motion on this. Correct? Yes, we do.
I'll make that
motion, and we have now a second now. Anybody have any questions or other comments? Hearing none. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Say aye.
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 Any abstained? Otherwise, okay. It is passed. I think anything else? I think we're going to someone else, and that's Ms. White. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Present, you can present the best.
I can give you the promotion. I'll just give you a promotion.
You look to the
Yeah. Well, I have some veggies there. I'm sorry. One of these days, I'm too busy making notes here about what we need to do, so, please forgive me. Ms. Deputy Director.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, everybody. I'm happy to present an update on our best goals for this year. We're doing pretty well. Some of them need work. I'm going to run through these really quickly. The green ones you'll see are items that are completed. Our safety goals, we're really close. The tracking needs to be completed on the lockout tagout. That one needs work, but we're almost there with the safety inspections and the programs that have been completed to date. So we're doing really well. Next one, and if anybody has any specific questions, I have a lot more information, but I didn't want to put it all on slides because we would be here for a while. All right, on education, we had asked them to complete one training class, and this was mostly for water, wastewater, and then come to find out BWI had come up with a class for their folks. So we've got the water, wastewater one pending, and we have one at BWI. We're almost done with training for, professional certifications or whatever. We've got just about everybody. I think we have just one more group that needs to complete theirs. People have been going to professional conferences, which is great. Half of the operating groups have developed virtual tours, and we have 2 more that are coming. I know some are already underway. They just haven't been completed. But we're getting there. Diversity. We've done some training on Workday, but right now they need to be posted. I don't know if anything was recorded, so that needs to be completed. MBE outreach, I think we've got one more event coming up, and then we'll be done. We've done a great job on our contracts with SBRs and MBE primes. Definitely has increased considerably. Next slide. COVID kind of impacted our sexual harassment training because we weren't allowed back in here in January, but it's picked back up. They had last week, I think it was, they had 2 classes, so they're working on that. We've got, like Dr. Glass was saying, we're doing a lot of recruiting, so there's career fairs, job fairs coming up, and so we're almost there with that one. And then the tracking, as you saw, was what Mr. Green didn't show that, but in Workday, there isn't the ability to track. If people have filled out their ethnicity when they apply, then we can follow it in Workday. So that's done. Okay, customer service. We're almost done with the invoices. We need to talk to finance a little bit about measuring, how we're doing on all that. Some of the groups have come up with tracking systems, but we still need some work on that. The reason I left, even though we've completed the strategies to lower vacancy rates and we're contributing to the weekly digest, that's something we just need to keep at for the rest of the year. Next. We're in the process of updating the internal intranet site. So that got started this month. So hopefully should be done another month, I believe. We beat our annual Maryland Charity Campaign. We did the Salvation Army Christmas Adopt a Family. We have identified several local volunteer opportunities. We're just trying to get people together to do them, but we've got a dog walking opportunity with Barks in Baltimore City. We've got an online food drive with Maryland Food Bank. So there's a lot of stuff going on. Oh, and science fair judges, we found out that, thanks to Christy, our attorney, her school is looking for science fair judges, which is one of my favorite things to do. I love it. At the elementary school, kids in their science fair. Great. Okay, next one, Pam. 100% compliance with reporting deadlines and requirements. Everybody has been keeping up with that. We're done with that one. The recycling program training is in review right now with communications, and they're calculating the recycling rate for this year. So that one, you know, I've been saying it needs work, but we're getting there. Everybody has been using Nitro to have contracts or whatever proposals signed. We're going to keep that up. And then last but not least, individual bottles, you know, BWI added water coolers. Staff at Dorsey were given aluminum cups to reuse. We've got water bottle filler stations at MCI, Hagerstown, and here. It's been great. And you see, if you walk around here at all, you'll see, like at the filling stations, when somebody's in the restroom or whatever, you see bottles, and everybody carrying around bottles. So that's been great. Certification exams for water, wastewater. They've been doing pretty well. We're almost there. The wastewater and industrial exam passing rate has increased. Water passing rate needs improvement, but we're getting there. And then Earth Day, obviously, is not till April, so this one won't be completed until then, but there's planning efforts underway. So if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer them, but we're getting there with our goals for this year.
Thank you, and I promise not to startle Ms. White again. So it's your turn, Mr. Ford.
Good morning again, everybody. So you can hear me. I have introduced myself already, so I'll forego that. All too often, the board only gets to see a glimpse of what environmental operations does through our procurements or through an individual group project. So it's a great pleasure that I get to present the great work that my teammates do in service to the citizens of Maryland, the state, private entities, and county government. So who we are. Well, you had heard earlier we have an average of 240, that's active employees, but we have 268 positions in the group. We're working on getting that gap closed aggressively. We have 13 solid waste management and steam and power facility operations in Maryland. And my workforce is a blue-collar workforce, primarily equipment operators and industrial, as we said, some of the boiler operators. But we also have engineers, administrators. We have a group that does monitoring, so the scientists that's within our group. And we sell leaf grow and leaf grow gold in the state and recyclable commodities. And so we have marketing specialists. And above all, we are innovators and planners, and we'll show you one of our projects where that's highlighted. So what we do, solid waste management is the primary function within our group. And that includes recycling operations and marketing of those recyclable commodities that are generated through those operations. We do landfill operations for the Upper Florida County and Harford County as well. And we provide landfill management services throughout the state, primarily landfill monitoring, some technical advisory, and engineering work. Prince George's County is a great example of that. We manage all of the county's Department of Environment capital projects. The biggest of those is a major renovation to their existing landfill that'll provide them another 50 years of space. We do solid waste collections on a limited basis. That's primarily in Montgomery County. We pick up all of the trash that's generated at these bus stops. You see the little containers. Well, we have a equally small collection truck that runs around the county and empties those containers for the county. And we also do food waste collection for Montgomery County with those similar type trucks. Composting, we're well known for composting in the state. We run the two largest composting operations pretty much in the country, and for Prince George's County and Montgomery County. And then Prince George's County in particular, we run both leaf and yard waste composting and food waste composting. Great tours, by the way, for the board at some point. We have a biomass energy project for DPSCS in Princess Anne that's taking wood waste and burning that wood waste to produce steam and electricity for the institution. Again, as I said earlier, we do environmental monitoring at landfills and solid waste facilities, and we do scrap tower management. I don't have used oil and CFC recycling, but we have used oil and CFC recycling as well in the state. So next slide. So where are we? I know we like pictures and we like maps, so I gave you both. I know it's hard to read those. I was hoping to make it a little clearer, but I failed. I apologize, but those are representative of some of the operations that we have throughout the state. You can see the little dots. We're all over the state. Next slide. If you have a package, you'll see it a little clearer on the paper copy. So recycling is a major activity of ours. We're active in 20 counties in Baltimore City. Over 4 million Maryland residents have access to Maryland recycling programs. We operate, as I said, I didn't say that, but we operate 2 material recovery facilities in Maryland. That's for Prince George's and for Montgomery County. You'll see an example of some of the work that we did at one of those facilities on the next slide. We do rural recycling collections for the mid-shore counties. Residents in those 4 counties can go to a number of different drop-off spots. In that particular case, the material is source separated and collected individually and then marketed as an individual commodity. So we don't have to do a lot of mechanical separation. We're asking the residents to do that for us. We run a durable medical equipment refurbishment program for the Department of Aging. Really proud of that program. That's one of the virtual tours that we have out there, and there's a slide up there as one of the recipients of that work. What they do is they take used equipment, we fix it, clean it, disinfect it, and send it out back to the counties where the Department of Aging is set up in cooperation with those counties, distribution centers. And that material is given away to needy residents as needed. It's a great program. We also offer statewide recycling programs, used oil programs. From Maryland Department of Environment, we collect used oil that home enthusiasts, when they change their own oil, can have a place to drop that oil off instead of putting it in the bay. It's collected and recycled, and then the recycler that we're using takes that oil, sends it to a refinery where it's remanufactured to base lube, so it's for its original purpose. So they becomes used oil for your car again. And then we recently completed a $6 million upgrade to the Prince George's County MRF, which is what the next slide is. It's a really cool slide. We can get that going if it works here. So before you start that, Prince George's County asked us to operate this facility after a long-term agreement ended with a private entity. That private entity had another facility, not locally, but another facility that consolidated plastics and separated. So they didn't, when this was designed, didn't include the technology to separate plastics out into individual components. So we were producing a mixed plastic here, and it was a low-value product. So MES recognized the technology gap. We know the technology because of our experience and recommended that technology to the county. We provided the economic justification for the purchase of that equipment, and then we managed the project to complete those renovations. And this is a time-lapse photo of those renovations. So if you can go ahead and hit it, it's pretty cool. If it works. We tried this a bunch of times. Honestly, it did work.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
This is about a 6-month project. You'll see, occasionally, you'll see these bales pop up. We were still running this facility for the fiber side. The whole time we were doing those renovations for the commingled side or the inner side, plastic. So the equipment that we added were optical sorters. And those optical sorters, again, this is a great tour for anyone who wants to see. It's magic. The material comes along with a conveyor belt. They use light to identify the type of plastic that is in that position. It signals down within a few feet where that position is, and then a blast of air blows it off the conveyor line onto another conveyor and sends it off to a bunker to be sorted. There's also, we upgraded the balers in the ferrous metal balers. But again, you see bales coming in and out of there. As I said, we were operating. And almost there, we're almost done here. It's a little slow.
Yeah.
Here you go. That's it. And it's operating now, and I got the last count, we've saved or added revenue to the county in excess of $1 million in the very few short months we've operated this facility. So it's been a huge payoff for them. County's pleased with the deal, obviously, capability. Anyway.
So what's the estimate on the payback period now?
It's 4 years.
3 years.
4 years, well, that's not bad. I'm not gonna, I don't know what the market.
Commodity market, yeah.
We'll be involved in the processing of that material. It's part of the planning that we do with organic compost facility. I have a slide up there for that. It's an exciting time for them. We've held back capacity at that facility to accommodate the material. The county's excited as can be about rolling that out. If you go down to the site, when you do the tour, you'll see, just a huge number of containers waiting to be placed. It's voluntary. It's not mandatory. It'll be voluntary, so you have to sign up for it if you're a county resident.
Already signed up.
Sign up for it. I know that it's not. They're not. I know Montgomery County is really excited about piloting that route as well. Is where the industry's going. Go ahead.
And I was going to go all over again.
So composting. As I said, we have 3 yard waste composting operations, one in Harford County that we operate, and then the 2 big ones, one for Prince George's County and one for Montgomery County. The total volume is 180,000 tons of material into compost and mulch products per year. And then we operate, it was at one time the largest designed food waste composting operation in the country. I think New York or Northern New Jersey has now beat us. It's the second largest, but that's a big facility, and it will serve the county for a long time. And it is highly successful. It works like a charm. And our compost is marketed as leaf growth, so shameless plug. Coming up on the planting season, or spring garden season, buy Leaf Grow. At the Home Depot and Lowe's. So we operate, as we said earlier, we operate landfills. We own and operate the Midshore 2 landfill for Kent, Queen Anne's, Talbot, and Caroline counties. My hat's off to the county government 20 years ago when they had the courage, really, to take this step and to consolidate their operations so that they could run landfills that were more from an economic and from operational capabilities, more economically or cheaply, as opposed to each individual county running a landfill only for the volume within their borders. So this made great sense when the landfill regulations changed in 1992. They had to had to build new landfills at all of their locations, and this was a kind of really forward-thinking effort by the counties. And my hat's off to the current administrators because they've got to keep it running. It's an 80-year agreement, and it doesn't just happen by itself. And 80 years without pain and effort and time. So thank you for all the service that you do for us as well. Statewide, the group's environmental monitoring division offers groundwater monitoring at landfill gas and permitting services. We have 35 distinct programs across 11 counties. With that, we run and design landfill gas collection systems. We do at our own landfill as well. And then our engineering division provides landfill engineering services to support county facilities and state if they ask. And again, Prince George's County is a great example of that effort. Next slide. And the last one sounds like an outlier. This originally started as for the DPSCS facility at Princess Anne, the Eastern Correctional Institution. When they built the prison 30 plus years ago, there was a concern that the local utility wasn't going to be able to supply the utility necessary to provide electricity for the prison. So the designers at the time elected to build their own energy plant. And because of the the availability of wood in the area, they elected to do a biomass CHP. We've operated it ever since. But because we had experience with that, it's a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week operation. We have a program in place where we recruit and train stationary engineers to run those boilers, large industrial boilers. And because of that experience, the state came to us years later and asked us if we would be interested in operating the steam plants, not the energy side of it, but the steam plants at Jessup and at Hagerstown and the Central Corrections Institution, which is the old state laundry.
Yeah.
And so in Jessup, of course. So those are the plants we're working at, and you heard a presentation today of the great work that those folks do at those plants, particularly this time of year when it's cold and you have to keep there's a requirement, actually, state law, that the temperatures in those institutions are warm enough to protect life and health. And it's a monumental job, and we do it well.
Because otherwise they start running the showers.
Yeah.
Water. Down there at
And then the water side gets, which we also do.
We get hammered at the wastewater plant.
So that's environmental operations in a nutshell. If you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer.
I was on the receiving end of the 1992 federal landfill. I was county executive.
Oh, yes.
Spent $160 million upgrading the Millersville landfill. So you guys are real smart.
Yeah. Ms. Heller will tell you, what's the annual budget for Kent County for a landfill?
It's not much.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. It's the tipping fees that run it.
So your sources,
Right.
tipping fees
Right,
defray your costs.
right.
Prior to that landfill rule change, landfills tended to be cash cows for counties because they weren't thinking about closure, right? And the long-term environmental impacts and efforts to monitor and remediate those facilities, you're supposed to, modern landfills now require that you accrue monies to do that over time. So they're not cash cows anymore, but they were at the time.
The two big things is you got to do your closing costs through the whole life of the landfill so that you can afford to close it. And then the other one I learned to my discomfort was the sewer hookup fee. If it didn't have, otherwise the last person to hook up on your sewer was like a multi-million-dollar hookup charge because when you can no longer accept new customers, you're stuck. So it's good to be counting the beans.
Thank you.
All right, I've just got one question for you, and I'll admit that I wasn't very good on math, but that's why I'm in law school. You don't need to know anything.
Before you go there, I was an agronomist, so I'm with you.
So my question's fairly simple for any mathematical person. About what percentage of your operation is in MES?
The total, well, from a dollar point of view?
No, in numbers, how many, what percentage, like 1/3, 1/4?
That I don't know. Hammett, do you know what our total percentage is overall? 'Cause I have to look at it as whether it's in terms of revenue or in terms of people.
A third.
Labor sales.
Yeah, for the.
We're about,
More than a quarter of the, it's probably a third of the people.
Yeah.
at least.
Yep, so for labor sales, they are almost double than the rest of them, so it is a huge operation.
Okay.
And as far as the total revenues are concerned, depending on the capital, it's a pass-through. But for the labor sales, they are almost double the size of everybody else.
Well, good. Prior to Dr. Glass, we tended to be siloed. We're no longer, so those types of questions are being asked more and more, and I'll be better at having an instant answer next time it comes up, so.
I thought it would be interesting for people who are not right with us, but looking at us, have some idea of how vast this is in our program here and how important it is. So that's all.
Thank you.
All right, well, thank you very, very much, and I'm not going to call on Ms. White. I'm going to call on Ms. Crosby. Ms. Crosby, here we are.
There she is, out there in Cyberland.
I had to unmute. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Eddie.
Okay, item 1 is an AE service contract for the Camp Freder Military Reserve Water Main Replacement. The contract is off our AE shortlist. The awarded contractor is George Miles Burrow, LLC, and the amount is $220,100.91 with an MBE goal of 34.15%.
Right. I'm very familiar where that is. Many times. But I don't have to recuse myself. I think I can do that without a problem. All right. Is there anybody that has any questions with regard to this? All right. Any motion to approve? All right. Second. All right, all those, any questions or other matters with this matter? Okay. Yeah, please, if you agree, raise your hand, state your name, aye. Aye. Opposed? None. Therefore, it is approved. Next.
Next, item 2 is for Environmental Ops Group. This is the scrap tire hauling disposal at Midshore. The awarded contractor is Austin Contracting, Inc. in the amount of $340,000. There's no MBE participation on the contract.
And I will recuse myself.
Any questions?
I'm going to recuse.
Anyone else have any questions, comments, etc.? None? Move. I'll second. Anyone have any questions, any motions, any matter? All right, other than the motion. All those in favor, please raise your hands, say aye. Aye. None, other than one recusal, so therefore it is passed. All right, next.
Okay, item 3 is for environmental dredging. This is the Fishers Creek Dam improvement and the dredging task. The awarded contractor is RK&K in the amount of $367,687.81. And the MBE goal on this contract is 10%.
Any questions from the board?
Feedback.
That was me?
It's just feedback from
these
mics.
Anybody have any questions? If not, is there a motion on this matter? I'll move on it. Second? All right, we've got a second and a third. Any other comments? All right, all those in favor, please raise your hand, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, opposed, none. Therefore, it is approved. Next one.
Item 4, also for the Environmental Dredging and Restoration Group. This is AE shortlist contract. The awarded contractor is Anchor QEA. The amount of the award is $290,000 with a 10% MBE goal.
Any questions on board?
I need to abstain from this one, Chairman.
There is a recusal on this. You'll notice that. And anyone else? All right. Any other matters to be asked of? None? Therefore, is there a motion?
Move approval.
All right. Seconded. Anyone else? Any other matter on this? Did you abstain also?
It's a question.
Oh, question. Okay.
No, she said second.
Okay.
No, I was seconding it. I'm sorry.
All right, fine, thank you. All those in favor, please raise your hand, state aye.
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 And we have a quorum, and we have one refusal, and the rest is quorum. All right, Ms. Crosby, I think you're at number 5,
Okay.
Is that right?
Item 5 is for the technical and environmental services. This is the vendor assisted contract. This is a change order in the amount of $248,545.08, and bringing the total revised contract amount now to, I'm sorry, change order in the amount of $3 million, and bringing the total revised contract amount to $5,118,545 with a 10% legal.
All right, thank you. Anyone on the board?
I just had one, somebody in the procurement business probably, it doesn't bother, but this is an original contract of less than $250,000.
It grew.
And it grew considerably, and I just don't know whether that's something we ought to, encourage or perpetuate, or whether this is sort of a one-off.
So we have been engaging with State Highway Administration. There was a large pullback during the COVID emergency. Not that it impacts this only, but that was part of a slowdown in dealing with drainage from highways. And now they have received better financial status and are investing more in this project. Why the large increase?
At what point do you rebid it?
Well, this rebid it in the sense of the people that are doing.
New.
Open it to other contractors.
Right.
I don't know.
Generally, it goes back out once the work is completed, and we re-advertise if we get new specs for the job.
So we'll get back to the board on that. We will. We'll figure out with SHA when they on a 1, 2, 3 year cycle, and what their time frame is. It's their contract, not ours.
All right, any other questions? Okay, is there a motion to approve this? I'll make the motion. Second.
No, I'm gonna ask a question.
Oh, you have a question?
But you
Oh,
gotta
I'm
make a
sorry.
motion.
I'm sorry, quickly.
As typical, since this is important, I forgot. I'll remember.
I'll be available to.
Okay.
All right. Any other matters before we take a motion? All those in favor, please raise your hand, state aye.
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 You have a second?
I think we pulled a second. If not, I'll go for a second.
I'll second it.
We'll second it. Okay, we'll do it again. All those in favor, please raise your hand, state aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Therefore, it's approved. And your last item there, Ms. Crosby.
Yes, item 6 is for the Technical Environmental Service Group. This is a GIS a shortlist contract, and the awarded contractor Synergy System and Service, Inc. The amount of the contract is $448,555.86. The equal of 29%, 77.5% is counted toward a prime MBE.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, any questions on this? Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion
And I'll second.
Any other questions, any others? Hearing none, all those in favor, please raise your hand, state aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anyone have any problems with it? If not, it's taken care of and has been approved. All right, I think that's it, Ms. Crosby, you can,
Yes, the notifications are next.
there you go. So we now have the procurement notifications, which are, below that, below the $200,000 level. But nonetheless, any questions can be asked. Don't have any questions as to this matter? I think we can approve and go on to the next matter, which is our council. Mr. Coleman.
We're going to be talking about, or giving you an update on the matter in a session, but I did want to remind both the board members and the executive staff that you are required to file financial disclosure forms by the end of April. I'll keep taking that reminder every month. Because if you're like me, you're going to wait until April 28th.
Let's see now. Are there any other matters that we need to take a look at now? I think we are at the end. Our next meeting is actually a different one than usual because it comes down to the 5th, and it is the 31st of March at 9:30 a.m. All right, so make sure those of you who look at the 4th, look at the 5th, and you'll find it. All right. Now we have another matter. The board intends to meet in closed session for the following reasons as permitted under Section 3-305B of the General Provisions Article of the Annotated Code of Maryland. That is to consult with counsel and other employees regarding a litigation matter. Are there any members of the board who objects to this in closed session? If the board member objects, then their objection will be noted on the minutes. I see none. I see none at all. All right. Is there a motion then to meet in closed session? So moved. Second? Second has been made. Any questions, any matters? All right, there has been none. All those in favor of this, please raise your hand. Say your name. Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone else have questions? All right. Therefore, I think we are within the boundaries for a closed session, and we will have a closed session of the board. Let's see here. We will not return to open session today. And I think that is about the time to have a closure of the matter, except for the closed session. Is that correct? I think so.
And Ms. Long and Mr. Witt, just hang on, and Ms. Leach will move you into a breakout room, and the online version will terminate at that point.